Good day, class. Good day, class. Today I want to speak on capital and risk. Capital and risk. And in that, speaking on capital and risk, the purpose of this training for today is going to be we're going to identify the qualitative steps in conducting a sensitivity analysis. We're going to identify the quantitative steps in conducting a sensitivity analysis. We're also going to identify how the project risk can be incorporated into a capital budgeting analysis. In that, we want to first start off by understanding what is sensitivity analysis, right? A sensitivity analysis, it is a tool used to help understand and identify what makes variables specific, and in that they must identify what makes these variables necessary for the economical area in which a business is in. So for us to get to what the qualitative and the quantitative was, we first need to identify what the sensitivity analysis was. Now, let's get into it and take a deeper look at the steps, the qualitative steps required. The qualitative steps in the sensitivity analysis, we're going to first observe the manner in which the data will be collected, right? Then we're going to put all that information together with the data that we've collected, and then we're going to examine the necessary growth for the data. We're going to determine what the growth is, because when we think about this, it's broken down in categories. So when we look at the qualitative steps, we understand this as it relates to categories. And then also, we're going to determine the pros and the cons, because with anything, there's pros and cons that go along with understanding if something is quality or not, right? And so after we determine the pros and the cons, and then we're going to put those patterns together to truly understand, will it work? Will these categories work? Is anything that we looked at, will it actually work? And then after we understand the qualitative, then we're going to look at the quantitative. The quantitative, when we think about that, we understand that that deals with numbers. That's more numerical, right? And so we have to look at that scenario, and that scenario helps us to understand. We want to look at the scenario. We want to look at the data that's actually collected, the numbers. How do we get to those steps? And that's always done in accordance with numbers. And then we want to identify the information that was collected. And then once we do that, we want to look at the cost value. What's the cost that go into a lot of this information? We don't understand that when you're dealing with organizations and you're dealing with companies, you have to understand that it's all numerical when we think about the budget, when we think about the money. And then we want to determine the percentages, right? Because with anything, with any type of number, it's percentages that go along. When we think about we think about, okay, well, if we take this much, what percentage will we have left? Or we give this much, what's the percentage? Like, how is that truly going to affect the budget? And then we want to determine, can we increase this, or is it safe to say we can decrease it? So that's what the quantitative would do. But then for me, I'm very aware, and when I always think about a budget, we always think about the risk, especially when you go into an organization. It's always risk, right? The risk is the most important thing. So we have to understand the risk of of that income. We have to understand the risk of the budget variance. We have to understand the risk of the breakdown. We have to understand the risk of the adjustments, because once we understand the risk, then the adjustments can be made. And then we can also, after we understand all that, then here comes the results. So that's where I'm at. We have to come to a point where we're able to produce the results and understands that anything, risk will be involved. And that's one of the great things about breaking down a budget and understand the variances of the budget. And then, so I want to thank you all for coming to this training, and just with any budget for any organization, understand the risk that it involves. Thank you.